So for many years we've been fighting online child abuse, and to give you a feeling for the scale of that, back in 2014, a year after the NCA began, we were looking at in the region of 2,900 disseminations to policing in a year. Now what we currently see is 640 a week. So we are now disseminating to policing leads in relation to online child abuse in a month what we would have done in a year in 2014. So that is big growth. It should be a big concern for all of us. There are more people conducting their life online, so there are more children online, and so the threat has grown as a result of that.
And when you say disseminating, what does that mean?
So we are sending to policing actionable intelligence leads from the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children in the US, who receive reports of online child abuse from the main service providers, social media companies in the US. And we distribute those leads to the local police forces. Sometimes we deal with them ourselves to allow us to deal with the offenders that are behind the access to those images.
So the leads that you send, are they all valid, high-risk threats? I'm sure I said it the wrong way around.
So we have start again. So we receive from our colleagues in the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children material which is indicative of sexual interest in children. And we look at the highest risk referrals first and deal with those immediately. And that could mean that there is somebody that has access to a child because they're in a position of trust. It could be because there's evidence of a first generation image where somebody has been abused and that has been posted online. So that is what we are dealing with day in, day out, and we receive more of those leads than we've ever received before.
I think you've described the situation as critical in your release. Is that how you feel?
So something needs to change. So there are more children online, there are offenders looking for children online, and the regulated environment that is the open web should be safe for children, because children need to thrive online. They need to be able to speak to their friends and be able to grow up online as digital natives. What we need is measures that will protect them, because we cannot see this growth continuing in the way that it is. At any one time, we will have tens of thousands of intelligence leads that we are considering and prioritising to get to policing to make arrests to safeguard children.
And in terms of the numbers, going back to the very first point you meant, those referrals and leads, do you have an indication of how many people that relates to?
So typically there is at least one offender behind those. There may be more than one. So every one of those leads, there is somebody that has accessed something connected to an IP address that we've then been able to resolve and identify. So for every one of those, there is a potential victim, and that's what we need to remember when we talk about these numbers, the victims that are behind the numbers and an offender.
Should the AI companies be doing more?
So we work very closely with technology companies. We know that they have the answers in terms of technology that will help keep children safe online, and we want to work with them ever more closely, because what they give us now really helps us protect children. But we are concerned that the technology advances could take this to a position where things are worse and not better. AI should be an opportunity to create safer environments, and that's what we need.
Are there any particular companies that are better or worse?
So it's the characteristics on platforms. So I wouldn't speak specifically about individual platforms. My appeal would be to all technology companies to make them as safe as they can be by not locking themselves out of any of the traffic on their platforms so they can detect abuse material, and by investing in technology which will keep that platform safe for children. And if children are on there, they must keep that platform safe for children.
And how has the recent development of things like encryption and AI made your work more significant or difficult?
So the encryption has actually made it harder for technology companies to keep their own platform safe, because if they make design choices where they implement end-to-end encryption, then they can't detect the material themselves, so they can't refer it to us. So that they need to consider that and try and redress that balance. The overall increases in volumes are a big concern to us because there are more children online, there is more opportunity for offenders, and we need to create some space for children and protective measures where they won't be actively pursued on the open web by offenders.
And the offenders you mentioned are all sort of being driven by a sense of rationalisation, normalisation and radicalisation.
Offenders will collaborate quite often in spaces where we may not be able to detect them. And when they collaborate, typically they will tell each other that what they are doing is normal. That normalisation is a very big challenge for us. And they need to be challenged in relation to their behaviour, and they don't get that challenge in hidden spaces. That can lead to a normalisation of their behaviour, and that can lead to an escalation and in some ways a radicalisation of their behaviour to ever worse offending.
I mean, they're effectively egging each other on, aren't they?
That is the challenge with some of these areas where offenders will encourage each other to commit worse abuse.
Okay.
So we want to help parents and carers and children protect themselves, and there are great assets that are available online from the CEOP Education Centre which give guidance on how children can engage with their parents, and parents and carers can work with children to help them help themselves. It is very, very difficult sometimes for children if there is a stigma attached to a mistake they've made. We don't want that. We want open conversations, we want children to reach out, and we want adults to help them. So we want parents and carers to respond to that in a positive way and deal with whatever has happened, but protect the child and not create a stigma where that child is too afraid to reach out, because that's what empowers offenders. We know that if you break that, it's far more likely that child will be safeguarded and the harm will be reduced.
So, and one last point, just getting back to the general warning of how serious the situation is. Is the reason why you're giving this warning and appeal at the moment is because the situation has always been bad and it's now the worst that it's ever got? I mean, is it?
So the situation that has the scale of what we are facing and the complexity of what we face has increased. We are making more arrests and more safeguards than we've ever made before. That's good. We are working with industry in a way that we've never worked before. That's good. But we need more to see those numbers going in the right direction. And we want to prevent offending, not deal with it after it's happened. So the reason we're talking about this is that people need to understand the unprecedented scale of what we are doing with policing colleagues every day in the UK, and to turn that into an opportunity to reduce offending and prevent it.
Just to give me the scale of the problem that we're currently dealing with, because you described it as unprecedented, and then give me a comparison for what it would be a number of years ago.
So in the last 3 years, the amount of material and the leads we're receiving from our colleagues in the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children has roughly doubled. That means that we were dealing with in the region between 500 and 800 arrests a few years ago. We are now dealing with 1,000 arrests and 1,200 safeguards every month, and that is the scale of what we are doing. To maintain that means a 24/7 effort by the NCA and colleagues in policing, and that gives you a feel for the way the threat has grown.